Project 2025 lays out a comprehensive plan aimed at restructuring the U.S. government, with a focus on consolidating executive power, reducing the size of federal agencies, and implementing conservative policies across various sectors. Key elements of Project 2025 include reducing government spending and cutting federal regulations, especially those related to environmental and climate change issues. Reclassifying tens of thousands of civil service employees as political appointees, which would allow future presidents to replace them with loyalists. Proposing the dismantling of certain federal departments, such as the Department of Education, and transferring their functions to state governments. Increasing oversight of agencies like the Department of Justice and the FBI to prevent what the project describes as political weaponization. Implementing conservative values in education and other social policies, including a ban on biological males competing in women's sports and limiting certain rights related to abortion and LGBTQ+ issues. Supporters of Project 2025 view it as a means to reclaim the government from what they see as unaccountable bureaucracies, while critics warn that it could undermine democratic checks and balances and lead to more centralized executive power. When executive power operates without checks and balances, and the judicial branch aligns with the executive rather than serving the people and the law, the implications for society and democracy are profound and far-reaching. Here's an analysis of how this might look, its effects on the people, its benefits for the executive branch, and the overall impact on democracy. 1. Characteristics of the scenario. Unrestricted executive power. The executive branch assumes total control, effectively operating as an authoritarian regime. Subjugation of the judiciary. Courts and legal systems prioritize the executive's agenda, abandoning impartiality and justice. Dismantling of law enforcement institutions. The elimination of the Department of Justice, DOJ, and FBI removes critical federal oversight and enforcement of laws. Concentration of power. Legislative powers may become irrelevant, further consolidating authority under the executive. 2. Effects on the people. Erosion of civil liberties. Citizens lose protections such as freedom of speech, press, and assembly. The government can suppress dissent with no accountability. Rise in corruption. With no judicial oversight, government officials and the executive branch operate with impunity, leading to widespread corruption. Loss of public trust. The absence of independent judiciary and law enforcement erodes confidence in institutions, fostering fear and distrust. Weakened rule of law. Laws are applied selectively or arbitrarily, targeting opposition or marginalized groups while protecting allies of the executive. Social inequities. Disadvantaged groups may face heightened discrimination as there's no impartial body to uphold their rights. 3. Benefits for the executive branch. Unchallenged authority. The executive can enact policies without opposition or judicial review, solidifying their control. Suppression of opposition. Political opponents, activists, and journalists are silenced through unchecked power. Economic exploitation. Resources can be redirected to benefit the executive and their allies without scrutiny. Manipulation of elections. Without the DOJ or FBI to oversee election integrity, the executive can rig elections to maintain power indefinitely. 4. Effects on democracy. Collapse of democratic norms. The principle of separation of powers is destroyed, undermining the foundation of democracy. Authoritarian rule. The system transitions to a dictatorship, where power is centralized and dissent is suppressed. Global isolation. Democracies worldwide may impose sanctions or sever ties, isolating the country economically and politically. Loss of accountability. The executive faces no consequences for abuses of power, allowing unchecked exploitation and tyranny. 5. Long-term consequences. Economic decline. Corruption and inefficiency in governance lead to economic instability, driving inequality and poverty. Civil unrest. Disenfranchised populations may resist, potentially leading to uprisings, violence, or even civil war. Brain drain. Intellectuals, professionals, and businesses may flee the country, further weakening the economy and innovation. Destruction of social fabric. Distrust, fear, and oppression erode communal bonds, dividing society along political, racial, or socio-economic lines. Historical parallels. This scenario mirrors patterns seen in authoritarian regimes such as Nazi Germany, Stalinist USSR, or modern examples like North Korea. Each instance demonstrates how unchecked power corrupts and undermines civil liberties, leading to widespread suffering and loss of freedom. Conclusion. When executive power goes unchecked and the judicial branch becomes an extension of the executive, democracy ceases to function. The elimination of entities like the DOJ and FBI removes vital safeguards against tyranny. For the executive, this scenario grants absolute authority, but for the people, it signifies the death of liberty, justice, and equality. Democracy thrives on balance, accountability, and the rule of law. Without these, the very essence of freedom is lost.